What's up, everybody? Legacy here for the 5th episode of The Climb, and today I have none other than the legendary Coolmark. Coolmark, say what's up.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
So, thank you for being on the show. We've known each other for a long time, but I feel like the audience and the community, maybe if they haven't been on your streams, they'd like to get to know you. So let's start off with like the usual question. How did you start your journey in mobile, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a long journey. I still reference my own YouTube channel for that because I don't really check how often or when I started. But I started in 2013. Before that, actually, I think that was when I made my YouTube channel. But in mobile, I think it was 2008 or 2009, because I remember playing the first Modern Combat Sandstorm. That was the first game that I really enjoyed playing. I think it was on the iPod Touch 2. And at that time, I was in like fifth grade. So I was very young then, and I just played the game because that was really the only thing I had. My parents really did not like me playing video games, and so that's really all I had. But I had no consoles, I had no PC, so I kind of played that game a lot. The typical games: Doodle Jump, Angry Birds. If you guys remember that era of mobile gaming, that's when it used to be. I'm sure Legacy remembers, but. Going off that, I kind of just continued to progress. I played more Modern Combat. If you guys know my channel and you've been like a real OG fan, I played Modern Combat 2, Modern Combat 4, Modern Combat 5, and Modern Combat Versus. Everything but Modern Combat 3, which is kind of sad. Everyone says Modern Combat 3, Fallen Nation, that was the best one, and I didn't play it. So it was because I didn't have enough money on my iTunes account, so I couldn't buy the game. That's the only reason I didn't play it. And so that's when huge clans like SXC and DN and there's a couple other FSK. I don't know. There's like a bunch of different clans that came out at that time and were really wrecking. And so that's what I was doing for quite a while, probably up until I would say 2014, 2015. And that's when I transitioned to Modern Combat 5. But afterwards, Modern Combat wasn't doing too hot, so switched over to Bullet Force because I was like, oh, there's this cool new game. Actually, my friend in high school, he was the one who introduced me to the game, but I was the one who influenced him to start playing mobile games. If you guys know him, his name is Beach Banana. He's one of my friends in real life. We went to high school together. We went to, we didn't go to middle school together, but we were in the same school district, and we hung out a lot in high school. We don't go to the same college now, but he played the game first, and then I made videos on it. And then I encouraged him to make YouTube videos. And he's, a big PUBG pro now. So if you guys know him, that's a little fun trivia for you guys. But yeah, Bullet Force was really fun for a long time. I actually worked at Blaze Games for a while as a community kind of specialist there, where I was doing streams there. And then I kind of transitioned over to Critical Ops, where I am today. So it's a long journey, had a lot of cool rides. Being able to cast tournaments and things like that. And, I got into PUBG a little bit, got into Call of Duty a little bit, but ultimately right now I'm in Critical Ops, and we'll see where my journey takes me next.
You've had such an expansive journey, and you've been in some of the best mobile orgs and stuff. Take us down like a little memory lane for you of like where you started to where you are now, as far as like being a content creator and streamer, and for like which orgs you've streamed for, like big tournaments that you've done, because I'm sure that a lot of the people would be interested in knowing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go back to kind of the Modern Combat days again. I think my first big org that I was in was Darkest Nation. If you guys know, they still have a Twitter, so you guys can check them out, but they're not as active anymore. They've kind of pivoted away from like competitiveness within gaming. But it was Darkest Nation within Modern Combat 4 and 5. Those are the two orgs I was in, or that was the one org I was in. And then transitioned over to, I do believe it was Critical Ops. That's when actually Legacy started D2R, and I was in D2R for a little bit. So that's kind of the interesting part there, where I was, doing content creation, streaming for them. One of my biggest views, or biggest most viewed videos. Wow, I can't speak. One of my most viewed videos. Actually, I was in D2R at that point, so it was like the pros versus hackers video, I think. So that's kind of where I was at that point in time. And then legendary, you guys know Gangstars, the legendary team that won the Mobile Masters in 2018. I still have the tag in Critical Ops, and people still ask me like, "Hey, is GS coming back? Can I have the GS tag?" You know, so it's insane for me to see that GS, even though it has like essentially disbanded, it's not, you know, it's not really active anymore. People still are super devout to that name and have a lot of kind of relationships and thoughts and feelings and stories behind that Gangstar's name, because it made such a big impact on all the games it touched.
Oh yeah,
And
massive.
yeah, it was a huge kind of a stepping stone for a lot of teams, and a lot of players who went to Gangstars went on to huge orgs as well. So I guess a lot of people could thank Gangstars for that. But yeah, I actually have a couple of jerseys from Gangstars, luckily enough. But yeah, so after Gangstars kind of my journey at Gangstars ended, I went to Omen Elite, where I'm at. So that's kind of where I'm doing content creation for them. I've never been really a pro player for any of the teams I'm at, because I know that I'm not the greatest at actually playing the games. If I were really good, I would have been, you know, already pro. But I'm mainly a content creator. If you guys couldn't tell by my YouTube, people call me Bot Mark all the time. I'm not the greatest at games, but I like to entertain people. So that's kind of where my passion lies. And yeah, that's where all my orgs. I think there's certainly some others that I was involved with, but I can't really remember them before Darkest Nation. So.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. So you brought up Mobile Masters, which is for the Critical Ops fans the utopia of what Critical Ops was. And if people don't know this, they're gonna know now. Mark got to shoutcast the big event. What was that like for you? Were you nervous? Were you just more excited to see good games? And like, who were you excited to watch?
Yeah, I think going back to it, that was when I graduated high school. That was the summer of, you know, right after I graduated, and I was working at Sears at that time. And I remember having to tell my boss, "Hey, I'm not going to be here because I'm going to be casting a tournament." So that's kind of when I realized, oh, you know, wow, this is going to be really cool. I was talking to Waddy a ton, and we got something set up there where I could actually, you know, watch watch the games and cast that for everyone. But for me, that was a super rewarding experience. I was just excited to cast games because I had been watching so much CS:GO. If you guys don't know what CS:GO is, it's kind of a PC version that is of the game that's very similar to Critical Ops, and it came out long before Critical Ops. And there's a huge, you know, eSports scene around it. So if you guys don't know it, check it out. But I had been watching CS:GO casters for such a long time at that point, and I was like, wow, I can actually be one of the big casters for this game. And at that time, we had two really big. I think the biggest tournament organized was Valiant, and so the Valiant casters got to go to the actual LAN, and you know, they were flown out and got to go cast there in the studios. I didn't get to do that. I got to cast from, you know, the nice comfort of my home, but it was still a really rewarding experience for me being able to kind of provide that in-game experience, because a lot of people don't really understand kind of what goes beyond or what goes behind casting, but there's a lot of research that needs to be done. So when you're casting, you have to kind of understand, you know, the teams, the players, kind of their journeys as well. So you kind of basically have to be a little encyclopedia of all the things that are happening in the tournament. You kind of have to know, you know, the prize pool, the format, how it works, which teams have won, which teams have lost. You essentially have to be a spokesperson for the tournament, right? So when you're doing that, that's something that I took a lot into account. But I guess the games that I was really excited for was, you know, the Hammers versus Gangstars match. I'm sure everyone was pumped about that. But we did have a couple orgs as well. If I do remember correctly, STDX, we had CSPG, and then we had, what was this?
Nova.
I forgot. A Nova, and then we had one more org, I think. There was 6 total. But
I can't remember.
it was Gangstars, Hammers, CSPG, Nova, STDX, and one more. That's only 5. Let me pull up. I think I can pull it up here.
Why can't we remember this? This is horrible.
Well, it was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago is why. So let's see. Oh, it was Vision Gaming.
Oh, that's right.
Because Vision Gaming they're not in the scene anymore. Like CSPG is a household name, Nova Esports is a household name, but Vision Gaming they're not there anymore. But STDX has now changed into Lazarus. If you guys don't know, Lazarus is the new org behind STDX. And then we had Gangstars and obviously Hammers, which funnily enough, Legacy is part of Hammers right now, so
Oh,
he
I
kind of
know
has
the
a
irony
connection.
of everything going on.
Yeah, he knows of everything there, so that's the connection. But yeah, I was just excited to see kind of the production behind it. Maybe not as excited for the games themselves, but the whole tournament in general. There wasn't really a matchup I was looking for exclusively. I just thought, hey, this is super cool that this whole esports scene is coming to fruition, and the fact that I get to be a part of it was very rewarding.
Now, that brings me to my next topic. Since you talked about being a CC, a content creator, and also a shoutcaster, do you like one or the other more, or just does it kind of depend on the day or the event? Like, what do you like doing more?
I'm gonna go the pretty typical route and say I think it depends on how I'm feeling. Shoutcasting is a very, very demanding experience. If you guys understand it, you really just have to be talking the entire time, unless you have a partner. Which Legacy and I have been pretty good partners in the past, but sometimes things just kind of deviate, and we haven't really had opportunities to cast together. But you know, casting is a very demanding experience, but a very fulfilling experience at the same time. And the same can be said for content creation. At the current moment, I haven't been shoutcasting a lot, so I kind of want to shoutcast a little bit more. So right now, I prefer to be a shoutcaster. But content creation, it's more of a like, hey, you can do this on your own time. You can do this however you want to. There's no parameters. You get to be very creative with it, and you kind of have all the say in what happens in your content, right? So all the full ability to do whatever you want, the full control. I think that's a super good part of content creation, but it also puts a lot of pressure on people, right? So I think there's pros and cons. Right now, shoutcasting, just because, I love my esports. I love talking. People say I talk too much or I talk too fast, and that's something I'm always working on as a shoutcaster. But right now, shoutcasting.
All right, right on. Fair enough. I think it's just, you're right. It depends on your mood. I think you really kind of have to be in the right mindset to shoutcast. Specifically because most of the time it's not for like an hour. It's multiple hours, sometimes three
Oh
to
yeah.
five hours of your time that you have to take away to put on production for the tournaments and stuff. And I think that's something that we could delve into later, maybe on something else. To really talk about what goes on behind the scenes for full production. It's really a lot, and I think you'd be probably one of the most perfect people to bring that up with. But we're gonna move on to the next topic. What are some of the best moments that you've had so far in your career, whether it was joining an org or playing a game, streaming something, shoutcasting one of your videos? What was something, maybe two of the most memorable moments you've had so far?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be a little more out of the box here. The first one, obviously, it's gonna be for me the Mobile Masters. I always reference it. It really was one of the kind of most life changing events, and kind of why I still shoutcast right now. It inspired me to be what I really enjoy doing, and kind of something that I still want to do. So that was one of the huge pivotal moments of my career, I would say. Very, very satisfying to do that, and I enjoyed it a ton. And then another one is actually happened very recently, an entire trip to Los Angeles. It was a very, very kind of spontaneous thing, but I had a trip to Los Angeles where, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm also a student. I content create, I shoutcast, but I'm a student and I work as well. So I kind of trying to balance a lot of things. And so for my company, I was working with and outreaching to a lot of the esports orgs that I look up to, right? So I got to talk to orgs like Immortals and Cloud9 and 100 Thieves, right? So these orgs that you probably see all the time, I got to talk to those people who kind of run the organization, the management of them, the people who work there. And so for me, that was something that was kind of really mind blowing and saying, oh, hey, I really want to do this, right? Even if it was tiring at that point, I really want to keep working in esports, whether it be shoutcasting, content creating, working the business side of things, working, marketing, whatever it may be. I think this is the industry that is meant for me. And even if it's brutal, I know esports is it is tough. A lot of the times you'll be doing things for no money, and a lot of a time that kind of goes into, maybe you don't see the full effect of it. But for me, working in esports and kind of going along with that one big experience, that one trip, and then casting, those are the two pivotal moments in my career so far.
It sounds like you're definitely in this for the long run. That kind of like brings me into something you mentioned: school, work, and you do the streaming and content creation as well. How has the support been from your friends and your family throughout your journey? Is this something you talk about a lot, or is it something you kind of keep to yourself? I mean, your channel is pretty big. Is it something that your family is kind of proud of? Like, how has that been for you guys?
Yeah, so I'm sure most people can understand, legacy as a father. Now he is on the other side of it, but most people here in this industry are very young, right? I started off very young. I started off when I was around 10 years old playing video games, and now here I am, 19 years old, and I'm pretty deep in the industry. But when I started off really young, my parents really did not like me playing video games. I'm sure most of you can feel a similar way. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. A lot of people, if they just don't understand the industry, they're going to be resistant to it, right? And our parents, many of them did not grow up playing video games. So in the beginning, I had a massive amount of resistance. In fact, I got into many arguments with my parents. I still love them, and I still talk to them all the time. And they are my parents, and I love them really dearly. But we had some conflicts in the past. So, for instance, sometimes my router would just get smashed on the floor. Right, it was a pretty bad time. There's sometimes my phone would get taken away for half a year at a time, right, 6 months. So most people can't even think about having their phone taken away for 2 days. I had my phone taken away for 6 months once. So that is something that I've had to deal with. And as we've progressed on, our relationship has gotten much better. I can tell my parents, hey, I can make a career path out of this. I can make a living. I can support myself, and not only myself, but potentially a future family of mine down the road. So that's something that I've been always battling. And, my parents are a lot more open to it now, but they still kind of wish that I was not really into esports. But, that's something that is just going to have to be, it's just going to have to be acknowledged that, I'm in esports and this is where I'm at. So for my family, my parents weren't the most supportive, but my brother was a little more supportive of that. My grandparents, you guys know how grandparents go. I'm not even going to talk about that one. But as far as my friends go, they think it's actually pretty cool. They don't treat me any differently because, they knew me as friends before YouTuber, right? So coming from that angle, it's a lot easier for me to kind of relate to them. Like, hey, we're all students in school. That's the commonality, not like, hey, I'm a YouTuber and you're not, right?
Hmm.
I don't think of myself as a big YouTuber. I don't even have the silver play button right now. So I wouldn't say I'm big at all. But it's something that I have a passion project and something that's actually helped me get a lot of positions and jobs, and I think leverage within the esports community that maybe other people wouldn't have gotten. But my friends, they refer to me as the esports guy. So anything gaming related, it doesn't matter if it's Critical Ops, CS:GO, PUBG Mobile, anything, literally anything. They say Hearthstone, they say iRacing games, anything gaming esports. They're like, oh, I know a guy. His name's Mark, and that's me. So that's kind of the impact I've had on my friends, and I think they think it's pretty cool because a lot of them don't know too much about it. So, yeah.
That's really cool. That you're the guy that people go to when gaming or esports comes up, and it's interesting to see, especially over the last 4 years, how big esports has grown, how big mobile esports has grown, and then what it could be potentially like in the future. I mean, you could seriously be setting yourself up for a really good career path with the way that the market is going. The sustainability is there now. I think it's really exciting time to be in gaming and esports right now, and I think you're definitely doing the right thing. So, and you mentioned some PC games and you mentioned some mobile games here. So, if you had to choose, would you rather be a mobile pro at in the biggest game, doesn't matter what it is, or a PC pro in the biggest game, doesn't matter what it is? What would you rather be?
That one. See, Legacy. If you guys don't know, Legacy asks the good questions, guys. There's some. I've had some interviews where they don't ask good questions, but that's a good one. For me, I gotta stay with my roots. I gotta go mobile. I love watching PC pros play, and I love, I have a huge PC setup. I'm all PC oriented. But at the end of the day, if I were to go pro in anything, it's kind of think of it analytically. More people have a phone than have a PC in the world. That's just a fact. I don't need numbers to back it up. That's just kind of, you can kind of gather that from looking at places around the world. And so the amount of people who can reach or that you can reach via a phone is much higher than the amount of people you can reach via a PC, right?
Mhm.
So just by that standard, and the fact that I know the mobile scene very well, I understand how the game is played. I was never good at PC games. I just enjoyed them more because they have more traction and they're more popular, right? So if mobile games were as popular as those PC games, that's probably something that I would be really excited about. And mobile's getting there, but sometimes we see them PC players, they disrespect us mobile players, and as a person who plays both, it's really weird for me to see that. I'm like, hey, I'm both a PC player but also a mobile player, so it's like I'm not trashing on anyone here, right? I think both are very difficult in their
Yeah,
own right.
I definitely
So
agree. There's different
yeah,
mechanics from both, definitely. I think
exactly.
you can't just go from one to the other and just expect to be a god by any stretch
Yeah.
of the imagination.
It's
Um,
definitely not easy.
so
So
so basically you're saying if you were a pro right now, you'd be like the Free Fire Pro, since that's like
yeah,
the hugest game right now.
yeah,
A lot of
Free
people don't
Fire
realize
or
that.
yeah, Free Fire or Arena of Valor or something along those lines. So
Hmm.
yeah,
See, that's cool. I like that you stuck with your roots. I would also want to be a mobile guy because I am a mobile guy. We both have PC setups, but I enjoy the mobile games more. So moving on, we've talked a lot about your past, and we'll go into your future later. But your career has been basically defined by yourself, and I love the fact that you maybe didn't have all the support that you wanted, but you still stuck it out there and did what you want to do, what you love to do. And you mentioned your channel's not big, but I think it's definitely a lot bigger than about 90% of the mobile content creators. What kind of advice would you give to other people who aspire to either A, be in the industry, or B, want to join a top tier org or a content creator? Because you have a plethora of experience in pretty much all these avenues. Like, what kind of advice could you give? Maybe someone who's on the cusp of being there.
yeah. So that's a great question. I think a lot of people could really benefit from maybe some advice here. I mean, there's a lot of opinions out there, and I'll give you mine just because I've been through it as well. So just take what I have with a grain of salt. But I'll give you some advice for people who want to be first in content creation and then just gaming in general. For content creation, it comes down to really big two things is consistency. I think a lot of people say like, oh, how do I get big on YouTube? Well, it's not uploading one video and then just it going viral and then you kind of stagnating off there, right? That'd be really cool if you did that, but that's usually not how it works. You don't just get viral on one video. And so you kind of have to be consistent, build a brand for yourself. I'm studying marketing, so that's kind of a very similar marketing 101. Just building a brand for yourself. Maybe if you do something that's really cool and maybe you don't think it's cool, but other people might think it's unique, right? Like some people have a certain way of saying things or a certain, tidbit about themselves that makes them unique, and that's kind of something they exemplify, right? So that's kind of something that maybe you want to hone in on. If something's unique about yourself or you do something really well or something really cool, definitely make that known because that can make you stand out to all the other creators out there. And not saying it's like a competition or anything, but at the end of the day, you want to succeed yourself. And oftentimes, I think another big one for me is collaboration. So it's not easy to go out and to say, hey, I want to, like if I said I want to go collaborate with Mr. Beast, that's not going to happen. I'm not a big creator. He doesn't know me, but you got to kind of build your relations small and then go up from there, right? Maybe
Hmm.
you're a content creator for a small org. Why don't you get to know your CEO better, or why don't you get to know the leader of your clan better? Maybe they know someone else who's friends with another bigger creator, and you can make that connection, right? So making those connections, collaborating with people, that's a huge one. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the channels. Mr. Beast, he does huge amounts of collaborations, right? And this is not even gaming at this point. This is just content creation. But just some basic tips there. Collaborate with people and be consistent and kind of find that unique path that you want to take. And in terms of gaming and business, just watch it a ton, man. Play the games, watch them a lot. understand what's going on in the industry, because if you don't, really, the gaming moves so fast, right? 1 month in gaming is like 2 years in other industries, and I'm sure Legacy can attest to that. Things move extremely fast in this world, and if you are out of the loop for maybe like a week, you probably miss, like, I don't know, maybe like Team Liquid picked up as like a Critical Ops team or something. Like, that probably won't happen, but like, this is the news that happens every week. An org picks up another team, or maybe a huge amount of money has been invested into the esports of this game, or things like that.
Tribe.
Yeah, so Tribe got $1 million of investing. That's sick, from Gordon Hayward too. So the news like that, where you just have to be attuned to it. I would say know and kind of understand what's going on, and if you can, maybe analyze it with a critical mindset. Don't just like take everything that's being said, but also put your own opinion to it. Kind of have thoughts behind it, because at the end of the day, if you want to become kind of influential or become really big within the gaming space, you kind of have to have your own opinions set out for yourself. So be open-minded, but also have some viewpoints on your own, and just be informed. So that's kind of the two. Not the two. There's a lot more than two. I said I talk a lot, but those are the couple things that I would recommend for anyone who's big into content creation or wants to get into gaming more.
Anything else you'd like to touch on or talk about that you might have missed, or you wanted to further elaborate on?
Now, I'm just gonna say shout out to the man Legacy. He's helped me a ton throughout this industry. Obviously he's filming this. If you guys don't know him and Matt, he's a family guy. Legacy, the man I'm talking to right now, he's a good man, and he does a lot for this community. He's been doing a lot of these, informational kind of interviews, things like that, but for the sake of everyone else, right? So that's something that I think you guys should definitely like and subscribe to his channel, because he puts a lot of effort into these things, and he's a good guy. So he's going to continue doing that, and I wish the very best of him. If you guys have any questions, I know that I try and check everything on all of my platforms except Facebook. I'm sorry, if you get me on Facebook, there's no chance. But you can message me on Twitter. You can send me an email. You can comment on YouTube. I try and read all of them. There's no guarantees that I can, because y'all comment a lot. But just reach out to me. Maybe some days I feel better, some days I'm not. I'm a human as well, so I try and be nice to everyone and try and give everyone kind of an opportunity to talk to me as well. But when I do stream as well, you guys can do that. So if you guys have anything, you can reach out to me. If you guys want to talk to Legacy, he's on all the social medias as well, and he knows quite a bit. So pick his brain. I'm sure one day we'll be interviewing Legacy, because he's a good man. He has a long story as well, and he's been pretty seasoned. He started D2R, FYI, if you guys didn't know. But yeah, that's really all from me.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being on the show, Mark. I really appreciate all the advice and you taking your time out to do this. I'm Legacy for Critical Points and The Climb, saying thanks for watching and peace.